Hey, what's going on, everybody? Christian Hanna Horror here today, and today is going to be a different type of video. This video is kind of inspired for me to talk about because of the release of Disney. I think it's called Disney Plus, I think. And it's a new streaming site where you can, stream all kinds of Disney shows and movies and things like that. And it got me thinking. I've been meaning to do this video, and I don't know why I'm avoiding it, because it's not necessarily going to be a controversial answer from me, at least not something you guys, wouldn't expect. But with this happening, kind of triggered me to want to make this video, and not triggered in a bad way, but, physical media versus streaming. I'm going to tackle this in two ways. This is going to be raw and real. Which do I prefer, and which do I think will prevail? Now let's talk about which do I think will prevail, because that's a very black and white way of answering that. When my answer is not black and white, and I don't think it should be, as I don't think, anybody's answer should be. What do I think the future is? I can guarantee you this. Streaming is only going to become more predominant. And I want to start right off the bat by saying streaming's not your enemy. Streaming is, another word for convenience, basically. And I stream often, I'm as a horror fan, I use Shudder, quite often. I used it earlier when I was on the treadmill, and that convenience is something that I love. Convenience is saving my time, and time is precious, even especially little moments. It's a lot easier for me to be able to pick a movie on my television, browsing left and right, than when picking on my shelf at my movies. Now, that's a personal problem I have. I don't know why it's like that, but it's always twice as hard for me to pick a movie that I want to watch when I'm looking at my shelf. But convenience is time. So for me to not have to pop a movie in, grab it, open up, it's little bits of time, but over time, you could be saving yourself an incredible amount of time just by not, and money, more or less, just by not having to go and buy movies or pick movies out. And I don't think streaming necessarily should be a killer for physical media, because in my life, they coexist perfectly. I mean, they really do. As you know, I'm a horror movie fan. The name of the channel is Christian Hanna Horror, and I love collecting physical media. Now, while I do love streaming, and I use Netflix, and I use Shudder and Hulu almost on a daily basis, at the same token, I basically watch movies on a physical format pretty much on a daily basis as well. And you're probably saying, well, how do you watch all this all day long? Bits and pieces here with streaming, For instance, I just got off the treadmill, took a shower, and here I am. What did I do on the treadmill? I got on the treadmill, it's in my master bedroom, and I watched on Shudder Chopping Mall. And I don't own that movie, so it made every bit of sense in the world to want to watch Chopping Mall. I've seen it in bits and pieces before, but I've never watched it fully, so it was a great time. It was very convenient. I picked the movie while I was on my treadmill, so there we go with convenience of time. It's almost killing two birds with one stone, because I can get in my hour on the mill and pick the movie while I'm doing that, so that was nice. But physical media is my absolute love. Now here's the slight cons with streaming for me. Apps will go down often. You'll have apps like Netflix that'll you just get kicked out of, or Shudder. Joe Bob froze it up, and then you couldn't enjoy anything for a while. But there's always going to be that 5% of the time, which is not often, but still, there's always going to be those times where the internet or apps don't work. Sometimes my internet could go down for 2 days. It doesn't happen often, but I'll get an email saying we're doing a lot of maintenance and you're going to be out. And of course, you always want to watch something or use something when it's not available. That's just the way it is. We are as humans, We want what we don't have, and we want to use something when we can't use it. We could have Netflix in front of us for 6 days, and on the 7th day when the internet's out, that's when we want to use Netflix all day. So there's always going to be that slight instances where apps will be no good, or there'll be maintenance on the apps, or you won't be able to use it, for one reason or another, your internet's out. So physical media is always a predominant force in my life. Now, like I said, streaming's going nowhere. So let's get into the physical media, because I want to talk about, do I think physical media is going to die? Maybe, possibly, eventually, yeah. All things seem to come to an end, so to speak. But, at the same time, it's 2019 and there are vinyls in Walmart, Is it a niche thing? I would say so, but then again, I see articles all the time about, vinyls are going to outsell CDs by 2020. Which begs the question of how many CDs are actually being sold this year. But I know that I buy vinyls at least once a month. So, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that do the same. So, it's a crazy, brave new world we're living in where, call it nostalgia, call it a need to have something physical in the hands that streaming doesn't do anymore. But it seems like, people want to buy an item that they can hold and have. So, I don't know. I think that there's enough, at this moment in time, there's enough sales and enough ways, there's enough people that want physical pieces to warrant the sales of these movies. I think some movies, have a second life on the video shelf, so to speak, at Walmarts and stuff that maybe don't do good in theaters. I dare say Child's Play made just as much money in video sales as it did in the box office. I could be completely wrong on that, but I don't think it's out of the question. So I don't think that there's a clear-cut winner at who's going to come out at the end, physical media or streaming. I think down the road, eventually maybe everything will be digital, and that'll just be the way it is, and companies will just stop producing, movies at the rate they are now. It's pretty much nationwide still, but I'm hoping that's not in my lifetime because I love physical media. So let me tell you guys, now I kind of given you my explanation on what I think the future is. I think streaming will eventually be the king of all, but then again, you just never know because, like I said, it's a weird world we're living in. Because like I said, vinyl's everywhere, so maybe physical media won't go anywhere. I hope it doesn't. And let me tell you guys now why I prefer physical media, because like something about buying physical media, for instance, here's this Omen box set. Now I could buy these movies online, right? I could go on iTunes and purchase the Omen 2, the Omen 3, the Omen 4, and the remake of the Omen, and save a lot of money and not have this taking up real estate in my house, in essence on the shelf. But here's the thing about purchasing a movie online, and I'm not disparaging anybody that does this, because this is also a convenience thing. It goes to what I said. This takes up space in a house, and a lot of these will add up in terms of mass. Whenever I buy a movie, which has been very seldom, online, I don't feel like I'm buying the movie and I don't own the movie. I feel like I'm buying permission of access to the movie. Which doesn't make me feel confident on how my money is going out. And I never feel, you know what I mean? Like, I never feel sure that that money that I pay for that movie will always be at my disposal the way this does. This is at my disposal whenever I want to use it. And there's a safety in this, and there's a, it's like when one of my favorite bands puts out an album. It's the same thing. I want to own the album. When Rob Zombie put out his last record, I wanted to own it because I'm a fan of his music, so I was able to hold it, look at the artwork, look at the images that go along with the sound. And that's what's nice about this. This is imagery that goes along with the movies that, I adore, and a lot of people do, this is from Scream Factory, which you could call it, more or less a boutique home video company, because they're not, you don't just see them at Walmarts every day. But, they've been around the block now since 2012. I know Shout Factory, I think, is like the parent company, and they put out predominantly a lot more movies than Scream Factory. But Scream Factory has to be making money because they keep putting movies out nonstop throughout the years, and they just keep getting better and better, in my opinion. And another thing, it's like when I buy this set on this Omen Blu-ray, I don't just get the movie. I can learn so much through commentaries that come on this, TV spots, radio spots, still galleries, introductions by the people that worked on the movie, yeah, and a 4K remaster. Call me nuts. It's the same thing with music. I had this discussion with my band I'm in. I notice a difference, whether it be little sometimes or more and other times. I notice a difference than when I'm just listening to an MP3 of a song through Spotify or iTunes, be it, than when I use a CD. It's sometimes really slight, but I notice a difference. Maybe I'm nuts, but it's the same thing with movies. If I see a high definition streaming of a movie, and then I have the Blu-ray of it, I can notice a slight difference. And when I watch this 4K Blu-ray of The Shining, or 4K remaster of The Shining, not a 4K Blu-ray, it's a 4K remaster, just to be specific. It looked absolutely stunning. And I've streamed the Omen, not The Shining. When I've streamed the Omen before, there's no way it could look as good as what it does physically on this disc, in my opinion. I could be completely wrong on that, but that's just the way my eyes see things. So I will always prefer physical media because there's that extra element to it, that almost that fifth element, if you will. That, you know, it's something tangible that you have. It's that extra layer that brings you closer to the movie. You know, whenever I get a movie, I find myself doing sometimes the things I do with records. When I start the movie real quick while the credits are rolling, I'll be looking on the back through the pictures, and I'll look at the art. This is the invitation to watching a movie, you know, that's on the cover of these movies. And while you get that on streaming, there's something in the third dimension that's just... It's more inviting than just seeing a picture on a screen on a television set, that it can't be duplicated or replicated. But to close this off, guys, I want to say that I do think that these two can go hand in hand. I don't think they have to be enemies. And I don't know that they're necessarily competition. You know, it's just one of those things. I don't know. For me, they're not competition because I want to enjoy both of them. But in terms of, you know, they both want to just make as much money as they can. People that produce movies on physical media and people that produce streaming sites and have content on streaming sites. So it's just a discussion, and it's something that, you know, I wanted to discuss with y'all how I feel. And I think that physical media still has its place in our society. And I hope that it stays for a long time, and I hope there's enough people. It's going to come down to the people supporting it. You know, that's really the bottom line, because money is the bottom line. And if there's no money in physical media anymore, then there'll be no more physical media. So it's kind of up to us at the end of the day. And the same thing goes for streaming services. What if people just never caught on to streaming and said, nah, I'd just rather buy the movie? Maybe streaming services would have died, you know, but it didn't. They caught on, and people like the convenience of them. So that's what I'm going to leave it off at this conversation, guys. It's an open dialogue. I want to hear what you guys have to say on this. Tell me your thoughts on both, what you prefer, and what you think the future is, because, you know, only time will tell, but it's nice to be able to see what people also think and what they forecast to happen. So thank you guys for watching this video. This is Christian Hanna Horror, and we will see you guys next time.